Hello and welcome to Just Enough to Get Started in the Field of Bioinformatics. This sixth video is going to be studying pipes and redirects and a few other commands. One command that I'll go over is compgen. I find this useful because it generates all the commands that can be run on the bash line interface. Another one that is very helpful is info, and this is kind of in the help category. I'll show what it does. Nano is a small text editor that can be run from the CLI or command line interface. A small program that I like to use a lot is WC, which stands for word count, but it can also be used for line counting as well. And lastly, sort, which is self-explanatory. So let me first describe one aspect of a program. There are two output streams in a program. You have a standard output that you can see in green on the right, and then you have a standard error output on the bottom, which is labeled number 2. There are two streams going out of the program usually at any one time. It's possible to collect these streams or to have the streams go to the terminal or the command line, and kind of you'll be able to see the data from that on your screen. It's also possible to have standard input that you can direct into the program. So let's say you had several long programs that were running and you wanted to capture the errors that were occurring. Instead of stopping the program, you could actually shunt the errors to the standard error number 2 and collect that in a text file. So if I'm using pipes, what I'm going to be doing is taking the standard output from program 1, and I might just generate a command like compgen and then use the pipe, which basically signifies any information data going from program to program, and it would go to program 2, which is sort, and then that would have an output as well. So pipes are only going from program to program, whereas redirects go from the output streams. So I can actually have an output stream at 1 or position 2 or at position 0. So the first symbol, the greater than symbol, which is a single redirect, simply opens up a file and places the information in that file. So in this circumstance, compgen will generate all the commands that I can use in the CLI and then put them into a file. If I used the double arrow or the greater than symbols, this is known as an append. So actually, if I had many programs, and instead of capturing the information into several different files or many different files, I could actually append it to one file and look at one file if I wanted to later on. The last one is a redirect facing left, and this is an input redirect. So it's possible to take the place of this standard input with this redirect and have files or some sort of information stream going from one source into the program using the left arrow. So let's see what we can do with this. One thing I did actually find doing a quick search on Google for pipes and redirects was a very simple question. What is the difference between pipes and redirects? And I looked at it and it was coming from Ubuntu. So the Ubuntu site is here again. It has lots of information that can help you determine lots of different aspects of Linux. And here we have the question, and someone has been nice enough to answer it. And basically it says pipes are used for program utilities, whereas redirects are using the streams. And they go into several different variations and several questions about that. So I'll post a link to this on the bottom of this video. So now let's go into our Ubuntu Mate running in VirtualBox. I'm going to open up a command line interface using my keys only now. I'm going to use Control, Alt, and then T. I'm going to do that again, Control, Alt, T, and I've opened up 2. The nice thing about using your keyboard is your hands are right there, and if you wanted to, if you made a mistake, you want to close one of the terminals, I can now go Control Shift Q. So I can do everything by the terminals. So let's see what directory we're in. We'll use present working directory first, and we're in Mate. So I'd like to put us into the desktop directory, so that requires us to cd into desktop. And you've learned from previous lectures that you can also do tab emulation or tab completion. And if I typed out DESK and then press tab, it knows that desktop is the only one that is able to work with that letter stream. So I will press that and then check again, present working directory, and now it says we're in the desktop. So now any files that are generated should be put to the desktop. So one thing I'm going to do is the comp gen, and I'm going to use the C option, which basically tells the computer to generate only the commands that I can use, not all the commands that are available, and then enter. Wow, that went very quickly. So as you see, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of commands here, all in a line, and it really doesn't help me much to just sort of search through them this way. I may actually want to collect them into a text file so I can look at them later on. So let's see if we can do that. So I am going to quit out of that, and I'm back at the desktop prompt, and I'm going to use the comp gen again, but instead I'm actually going to use the up and down arrows. The up arrow should replace the last command that was typed in. That's the comp gen. Now I'm going to add a redirect because I want to work with a file. I want to go from program to file, not program to program. And I will actually call this file comp commands.txt. And we'll save that, and hopefully it'll go to the desktop. And it looks like it has, so that's good. So now we can use Nano, which is a small text editor, and look at the information that it's produced simply by typing Nano and then the source of the document. And I can press comp, and since there are no other COMPs in the desktop, I can press tab, and it should complete it and open up that single command or that single file. So as you see, there's lots of commands here. They're not in alphabetical order. They're all mixed up. Some are interesting, some are several words long, some are one word long, some have hyphens, some have underscores in them. So there's not much rhyme or reason to that. So it might be helpful to sort of sort them into some alphabetical order. Let's see if we can do that. First, what we'll do is we'll close or exit out of the Nano text editor by pressing Control Exit, Control X, and that brings us back to the command line. Now we can use our pipe since we're going from comp gen to another program, program to program, comp gen. And now, instead of making a text file, I'm going to shunt the information stream to another program, which is sort. Let's see what it does. And then actually let's collect that output in a text file, sorted comp gen text. And let's see what happens. Boom. So we see that we've now got a sorted file, or at least it's produced a sorted file, and we can look at it very quickly. And I'm using tab completion here, and I'm going to press enter, and now it seems like it's sorted. So I have the numbers first, the A's, so forth and so on. Lots of A's, lots of B's. Well, how many commands is this? How long is this file? One thing we can do is we can actually use the command line again to figure this out. So I'm going to use Control Exit again, Control X, and I'm going to go back to the command line. And now I'm going to use a third command in series. I'm going to add comp gen, sort, and then I'm going to count the words in this file that's produced. And we'll do that by WC. And then I'll output to WC comp gen text. Okay. And let's see what that has in its file. So I'm going to press Nano again, WC and open that up. And it gives me 3 numbers basically. Your goal now is to look up WC and to find out what these 3 numbers mean. So one thing we can do is open up another terminal by pressing Control-Alt-T, and then we can go to man WC. That's the manual for WC, or word count. And let's see if we can find some information on what these 3 numbers represent. So we're looking for the output, and it's not necessarily clear in this document. Let's try quitting out of this and going to WC / help. And we have more of the options here, but not necessarily more of the output. So we might have to go to the internet and find out what those are. That's fine. So I happen to know that this first number is the number of lines. The second number is the number of lines also, but the third number is the number of words. So it's actually broken into 3 different columns. So in this file, there are 27,000 words on 2,600 lines. So there are 2,600 commands that you can run right now from the command line. So if we look at those commands, press Control-Exit to leave, and then go to look at the last one, the sorted one, we find that there's so many there. It's hard to know where to start. Well, one thing I'm going to show you right now is the info command. And I'm going to Control-X out of it, and now I'm going to press info. Now, this info command is basically a small program that produces information that goes to the screen. It's just like any other program. So I'm going to redirect its information flow from the screen into a text file, and I'm going to simply call this info.txt. And here we go. Here we have it. Pressing nano again, we have info. Press tab to complete it. And now I can look at this. So this is usually a much smaller list of the most necessary, most common commands that people use. So what are some of the things that you can use? You can quit, you can use help, you can use H's. But the basic commands are basically in this structure. There's command options, there's core utilities, there's date, and there's editing commands. There's also file permissions, which is a very important feature of Linux that we'll go into later on. There's also finding commands. So let's look at these. There are zip commands that can unzip and zip, or compress and uncompress. There are nano, which is the file text editor that we looked at, a very small one. There's some other commands here. MSG are very intricate commands, so we'll not deal with those right now. But the most common commands are sort of down here, where you have cat, change group, change mode, change owner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present this list with the most common commands used and left in. And I will ask you to find out how many commands that is by using the WC command, and we'll do that shortly with this other set of information. So let's save this now and Control-X out of it. Okay. Now we're going to use the WC in a different way and look at just counting lines. So what I want to do is go back to the last time I used WC, and now I can add one option, which is -L, and that will actually count the lines. And now, instead of going to a file to save that information, I want it just to print out to the terminal. There it is, 2,645 commands that you can run from your terminal. Each computer is going to be slightly different in the number of commands and the what permissions you have to run those commands, but this is a good starter for now, and we'll talk about other features to begin with in a moment. Thanks.